Welcome to Game Changer. I'm Mariam Zia. When we talk about South Asia and Central Asia, we know that they are emerging as hub of economic activities. But at the same time, this region is home to a number of security challenges, and there is a need to address these security challenges. Efforts have been made to address these security challenges, and one such mechanism when we talk about promoting regional stability is the initiation of Trilateral Dialogue between China, Afghanistan and Pakistan. And a number of these dialogues have been taken place since 2017 when this forum was initiated, and the latest and fifth China, Afghanistan, Pakistan Foreign Ministers Dialogue was concluded in Islamabad. In today's program, we will be talking about key takeaways from this trilateral forum, and we will also be talking about the situation in Afghanistan, the instability in Afghanistan, and how this is impacting the regional stability as well. And we will also be talking about the strategic bilateral cooperation between Pakistan and China. To discuss this and more, I'm joined in the studios by Mr. Humayun Khan, who is expert in international affairs. Welcome to the program. And we are also joined by Mr. Shahyar Khan, who is IR analyst. Welcome to the program. We are joined online by Dr. Hasnain Javed, who is expert in international affairs. A very warm welcome to you all in the program. So let me start with you, Mr. Humayun. When we talk about this important trilateral dialogue between these three countries, how do you see what is the strategic importance and the importance of timing of this dialogue and taking place, especially in Islamabad?
Thank you, Mariam. This is a very important question. In order to understand the vitality and utility of this particular fifth trilateral strategic foreign ministers dialogue, China and Pakistan has unanimity of view on all the international issues, not now, but from the last 75, 76 years of our existence. And this particular visit coincides with SCO's summit, which recently held in Goa, where Pakistan was represented by Bilawal, Bhutto, Zardari, and it made a lot of news and flashes all across the international media. The reason why he went there, he wanted to highlight Pakistan's case, and he represented Pakistan wonderfully. Well, there's no doubt about that. All international media, be it DW from Germany, BBC, Voice of America, and all international media highlighted that Pakistan played a very vital role in terms of promoting the Pakistani case, A, and B, also promoting the cases of SCO. Now in SCO, we also have an Afghanistan contact group. For a very long time, we have been discussing about how to resolve the issues which Afghanistan is facing, which I'm sure Sharia will be discussing in later part as well. This is humanitarian crisis that they're facing, the terrorism situation which is erupting because of the lack of writ of the state and financial issues that they're having, governance issues. Having said that, so once Chinese foreign minister was there, Pakistani foreign minister was there, and from there, as a multilateral forum, they came to Pakistan. Now, this is also showing to the rest of the world how China view Pakistan, because this recent visit, which was the culmination of the trilateral dialogue, was also a visit where Pakistan, China, foreign minister bilateral dialogue, strategic dialogue also took place, which was fourth in line. So timing is very important, that the world is like, again, in this bloc politics, we have different camps generating here and there. China showed its resolve, the Chinese foreign minister's first visit to any outside country. And this is also coinciding with the visit which Pakistani army chief just visited like last week there. And before that, a month ago, Pakistani ISI chief was also in China. And then Shahbaz Sharif was the first prime minister who, or head of the state, who visited China when Xi Jinping became third-time prime minister or president of China, or lifetime president, depending on who you talk to. So this also shows how China gives importance to Pakistan, and how this particular issue of regional stability, regional connectivity coincide with this trilateral dialogue.
So how do you see China's role in this trilateral dialogue, and how do you see that China's engagement with Pakistan and Afghanistan has evolved over time?
You know, China has always been of the opinion that this particular region needs to be connected, well connected with each other. We have a couple of years ago, South Asia, Central Asia connectivity concept. Belt and Road Initiative is now into its 11th or 12th year. CPEC is now having the 10th year anniversary this year. So China already always wanted that this region gets connected with each other, so that transportation, economic cooperation, collaboration, and win-win cooperation is the mantra which they're like playing for a very, very long time, and which is the need of the hour. So this trilateral dialogue is a continuation of that particular policy, that we want stability in the region. We want 40 million people of Afghanistan who are suffering for a very, very long time, 20 years plus, and particularly after a year and a half when the Taliban took over of the Kabul administration regime. So they want that somehow the issues which were lacking from the Western point of view, China should come here and address. China is investing their humanitarian assistance.
Of course, we will be talking about those investments later in the program. So, Mr. Shehjar, what are your key takeaways from this trilateral dialogue between Pakistan, China and Afghanistan, and what is the significance of this dialogue at this point in time?
So, Mariam, this trilateral dialogue basically worked on a 3-point agenda. So there were like 3 areas that were of key importance that were basically discussed in detail. So one is security, the second is the economic development of Afghanistan, and then a lot of discussions on the political domain, on like a lot of various political issues that are still pending. As China is one of the largest investors in this region as well, and with the whole CPEC project, it's like investing over $60 billion. And for the success of the overall BRI project and the network, regional stability and economic stability in Afghanistan is the key. So there were various takeaways.
So how do you see that this trilateral dialogue, this foreign ministers' dialogue fit into Pakistan's foreign policy view?
So obviously Pakistan's key concerns in regards to Afghanistan is the economic and security stability of Afghanistan. And the peace and security in Afghanistan is the key to regional connectivity. And in various programs we have discussed this in like great detail, that unless or until Afghanistan is stabilized in terms of security, in terms of economics, the regional connectivity will always be a difficult task. So there are like some key takeaways that are coming from this trilateral dialogue. One, there was a lot of discussion on security cooperation in the region. Then there was like a lot of discussion on economic development. And economic development also talked about the frozen assets of Afghanistan, that both countries basically stressed that they should be given to Afghanistan for the development of the people of Afghanistan. Other than that, there was like a lot of talk on reconstruction of Afghanistan, investment opportunities, and a lot of like regional connectivity projects like CASA 1000.
Of course, we will be talking about these projects. But Dr. Stan, whenever we talk about regional stability, of course, Pakistan keeps on stressing that a stable region is not possible without peace and stability in Afghanistan. How do you see that this trilateral dialogue has contributed or can contribute to this instability and security issues, humanitarian crisis that Afghanistan is facing at the moment?
To me, it is more than a security issue. It's more than a humanitarian issue. It is more than other activities going around. I mean, if I just have seen there is an expected talk on Sunday about between the U.S., Saudi, Emirati, and Indian national security advisor are expected to meet on the Sunday. So they are talking about the different railway projects, different connectivity within the Saudi, Emirat, India, and Israel. So this is called I-to-U2. So this is the point where we must have to discuss, and we must have to link that there is a Shanghai Cooperation, and on the other side there is going on the trilateral discussion between the Pakistan, China, and Afghanistan. Pakistan, China, and Afghanistan must have to meet, because Afghanistan is the most important for the central part to connect with the Central Asian part. So this talk is very much important, as
of course this talk is very important, Dr. Stan, but there are some certain challenges to these trilateral dialogue as well. How do you see these limitations and challenges to such negotiations and talks, and how they can be addressed?
This is what I'm saying, that I-to-U2. Do you have any idea about the I-to-U2? So this is what I'm telling, that there is an expected conflict between the other countries. So this is why they have the talk within the Afghanistan. So it is about the trilateral foreign minister dialogue. Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari and his Chinese Afghan counterpart Jin Chang and Maulvi Amir Khan Muqatai respectively held a productive discussion on the matter of the mutual interest, including political engagement and counterterrorism, trade and connectivity. But I've already told that is more than that. But what they have agreed upon is the China and Pakistan have agreed to extend the Pakistan and China economic corridor for the Belt and Road Initiative, where the I2C IUTU matter in the Emirates or the Israeli parts. But the here it comes in 2023. The Afghan Ministry of the Mines and Petroleum said the Chinese companies Gochin expressed interest in investing the 10 billion in the countries and
Of
lithium
course.
deposit. And China also depositing about $59 billion more in the CPAC project. So the takeaways is going to become very much heavy as the MLN project is going to launch very quickly, and they are coming to give the hard connectivity in the infrastructure and soft connectivity in the norms of standards, and further explore the facilitating measures of the movement of people and trade connectivity between the countries. So the three sides agreed to enhance the transit trade through the Gwadar port. So this is the more compact area where we need to understand. So as far as the Belt and Road projects, if I see, there is a power, there is a transport, prosperity, utility, and metals, which is about the billion of the dollar. And Pakistan is on the $31.9, which is, and Nigeria is $23.2. Bangladesh is $17.5. Indonesia is $16.8. Malaysia is $50.8. This is how the Belt and Road Initiative make the arrangement between the Pakistan, Afghanistan, and China. And China is building all these blocks. We are not the part of the bloc politics, but we are suspectedly will be the victim of the bloc politics, as we have seen the Quads, and
Of
after
course.
that, I see the build back better project
Of
against
course,
us.
and
So
these
we have
dialogues,
to.
these talks have far-reaching impact, and not only within the region but beyond region as well. So, when we talk about these trilateral dialogue, how do you see that such talks between these three countries are going to impact Pakistan's relations with other countries in the region and with other global powers?
You know, basically the entire global politics is changing. And the recent rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran, which was initiated by the Chinese
China,
Global Security
of course.
Initiative, which basically heralded a new vista of cooperation in the region. Middle East was an area where there was a lot of like competing powers fighting against each other, and particularly the two main sect of Islam, the Shia and the Sunnis, led by Saudis and the Iranians. Now that we have a convergence of view, this basically gives us a new area of cooperation. We have seen the Chinese, Saudis and the Syrians, we have seen the Yemenis and the Iranians cooperating, we have seen the entire region becoming an area where win-win cooperation is the mode. And that's basically the theme of 21st century, where China talks about economic cooperation, interdependence in terms of economies, win-win cooperation, and alliances compared to the strategic linkages that they have. So the question that you were asking, Dr. Hasnan, about the Quad and AUKUS, that's basically a win-lose situation. You are like making alliances against certain countries so that they are like, you progress and they don't progress.
It's game of power politics,
President
while
Bhutto-
here we are talking about win-win situations, of course. But there are certain challenges as well when we talk about these trilateral dialogues, because as we discussed earlier, that these talks have been going on since 2017, and several rounds of talks have already been carried out to promote regional stability and regional cooperation. So what are the key challenges you see in implementation of the agreements or the initiatives that are discussed in these dialogues?
You know, the biggest challenge is the international recognition of the state of Afghanistan. For last many years and decades, it was like a government which was supported by Western countries. ISAF was there, and since a year and a half, it's now a new regime. They are calling de facto regime in Afghanistan. And now the issue is, as Sharia was mentioning, there is like a $9 billion fund which is frozen by the Western International Monetary Institution and Western government. 40 million people are suffering, and out of 40 million, World Food Program suggests 19.9 million people are on the verge of a famine. Like they don't have food for one
Of
one
course.
one
And
food
97% of Afghan population
is below poverty line.
Of course.
So this basically gives us an idea that what a grave humanitarian crisis, and UN Secretary General called it the worst humanitarian crisis in the recorded history. So having said that,
But
now
still, earlier this month, when talks were carried out on Afghan issue, and they were, of course, conducted by UN, but of course, Afghan government or Afghan stakeholders were not invited to these talks. So this initiative, these recent talks are significant in that aspect as well.
Absolutely, and that's the dilemma. Like when you're discussing about how to resolve the issue of Afghanistan by United Nations and other bigger powers, and if Afghanistan de facto regime is not there, how do you expect that things will wane out? In this particular case, China took this initiative that we should have a trilateral mechanism of the neighboring countries, because China is a neighbor of Afghanistan and Pakistan at the same time. And we also know that if Afghanistan is stable, and that's what this is a cliche which we have heard about. Allama Iqbal mentioned that if you want to have stability in this region, you have to have a stability in Afghanistan. So stability of South Asia basically hinges on either Kashmir or Afghanistan or Kabul.
Of course.
So this basically gives us an idea that this entire region, which is the gateway of South Asia to Central Asia, and Afghanistan is the land bridge for that. We need to have a stable government in Afghanistan. We need to have a prosperous governance model in there. 40 million people, and this is an area which has been marked by many as the graveyard of
superpowers. Of course, we will be talking more about this and the importance of Afghanistan in the regional stability as well, and we will also be talking about connectivity within the region, but after a we are talking about the trilateral dialogue between China, Pakistan and Afghanistan, and key takeaways. One of the key takeaways was the trade and connectivity initiatives between the three countries and beyond the region as well. Of course, when we talk about these trade and connectivity initiatives, how do you see what are the major trade and investment opportunities between the three countries?
So Mariam, before talking about trade and investment, I would like to further take forward the point made by Humayun Saab, that without international recognition, without international financial institutions ready to invest in Afghanistan, and without the international recognition of the de facto regime, we don't see a lot of international investments coming to Afghanistan. So most of the projects of regional connectivity that we talk about, like the CASA 1000, TAPI, and we also talk about the Trans-Afghan Railway network, that IPI as well. They all pass through Afghanistan, but they are not initiated in Afghanistan. So these projects are connecting Central Asia to Afghanistan, through Afghanistan to Pakistan and then to Gwadar and the ports. But none of these projects are unfortunately being initiated in Afghanistan. So that is why the international recognition of Afghanistan is of utmost importance. Other than that, another concern.
Of course, but still, despite all these challenges, we know that earlier in January 2023, Chinese companies have invested in Afghanistan. Yes. So how do you see, is there any chance for private businesses to invest in Afghanistan?
So the Chinese state is heavily investing in Afghanistan. And when it comes to Central Asian countries, they are using Afghanistan as a transit hub to connect through Pakistan to South Asia and Central Asia and Southeast Asia. So that's under discussion. But again, one of the key aspects was security that was also discussed in these areas, and security is very intertwined with investment.
Of course.
No one would want to invest in an area that's not secure. So one of the key challenges that emerges and which we are trying to resolve through these trilateral networks is to look after the security measures. And then to get the international community on board, we also discuss various issues that fall in the political domain that have been being discussed.
Of course, we will be talking about political issues later in the program. But Dr. Sen, when we talk about connectivity and trade, how do you see what are the important initiatives between China, Pakistan and Afghanistan? And of course, there are a number of challenges. How to address these challenges?
As you just talked about the Chinese investment, and afterwards I'll talk about the challenges too. So if I see on the Chinese investment in Afghanistan, we can see that the Taliban-run Afghanistan saw its first significant foreign investment last month when a Chinese firm signed a 25-year-long multi-million-dollar contract to extract oil. And second one is this January 6th. The Taliban signed with the Xinjiang Central Asian Asia Petroleum and Gas Company, CAPEIC, a subsidiary of the state-owned China National Petroleum Company, CNPC, and contract to extract oil from the Amu Daryan basin, which stretches between the Central Asian state and Afghanistan, where it covers 4.5 square kilometers. Which is about the 1.73 square meter. So the deal will see investment of 150 million in the first year in Afghanistan, and 540 million over the next 3 years. So this is the first part of your question, which I answered. So second is the Afghanistan Bank, and there is a different sanction which has been given so far by the UN. So most of the foreign funding is being given to Afghanistan, but it has been stuck. But yet alone, a recent time I have visited there, and I have seen Afghanistan is developing like anything. But we must have to interrogate what is happening there. It is just China at the back? It is just the Pakistan, China, or other trade partners over there, or it is the magnanimous intervention of the US in Afghanistan. So as far as the regional connectivity, as far as the our trade is concerned, most of the trade is smuggled to Afghanistan. We have to protect this, as this is the part of the security discussion. And then we have to discuss on the other part as a trade. We have to have the trade in Afghanistan in a different ways. But China has magnanimous trade in Afghanistan, and they are protecting like anything. If I talk about the Pakistan trade
of
over
course,
there,
but,
it is
but what
just
is
in
the
the
level
millions.
of infrastructure development in Afghanistan, Dr. Snan?
It is increasing day by day. It is going way too better, and you will get the shock. And I'm recently went there, and I have seen that their development, their road infrastructure, their from Kabul to Herat to other cities, they are connecting in a very well infrastructural policies. And those Talibans are way too different Talibans from the other Talibans. They are more proactive to the foreign relation. They are proactive to infrastructure. They are proactive to oil extraction. They are proactive to the trade development. They are proactive to the different international commitments, and they are very much into the different ideologies. And now they understand the new Afghanistan. They are going to see the new Afghanistan, which is very much and way much progress in a different way. So these trilateral talks can give us
there is a lot of potential when we talk about Afghanistan, and Afghanistan of course can emerge as a key connectivity hub, but there still remains a number of challenges. But Mr. Humayun, when we talk about China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, that is an important flagship program of China. How do you see that CPAC is to enhance connectivity and trade between these three countries and with other regional powers as well?
You know, there are like two aspects to your question. The first one is how CPEC can help Afghanistan. CPEC primarily is between China and Pakistan, but we have been offering the Afghanistani side to be part of that. And once they become part of that, they will be part of Belt and Road Initiative. because CPAC has its own different dynamics where we have JCC and Joint Working Groups which discusses about projects within Pakistan. But then this whole idea of Belt and Road Initiative is connectivity from land, sea and other areas where we have cyber connectivity, we have economic cooperation. So within that realm, Central Asia and South Asia are like two main pillars of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and Belt and Road Initiative. And if we could merge them together, some of the projects Dr. Hasnain mentioned, Shahyar mentioned, are Western oriented, particularly CASA 1000, TAPI.
What sectors of trade and investment are being specifically targeted or should be specifically targeted for these connectivity initiatives?
You know, there are like multiple areas where Chinese, with the help of Pakistanis, would like to extend their expertise within the Afghanistan mining sector, within the Afghanistan agriculture sector.
Energy remains to be an important.
Energy is something very important. Afghanistan does not have a bigger infrastructure as of yet, but the first issue is to build infrastructure there. Roads, bridges, canals, agriculture sector in which we could help Afghanistan to either get rid of poppy and focus on more other productive outline where they could like benefit more. So this is a country which has been at war for last 40 years, like 20 years, this completely destruction of their like economy. So what we have been suggesting and what this trilateral has been suggesting that, you know, we need to focus on 40 million Afghan people. We do not have to see how Taliban, and by the way, this Taliban de facto regime is the same one with which the West has signed an agreement in Doha.
Yes.
So they came because of the Doha peace talks. So now, yes, there are international demands, and I really believe that there should be a unanimity of view that these are the certain things. Human rights is an issue which nobody should compromise. Women's rights an issue with nobody should compromise. Education for all, freedom of expression. The idea of inclusive government, which sounds a little like odd to me in a way, that this is a regime, the current de facto regime, which believed in an ideology for 20 years. They fought international powers. Now you want them to include people from the previous regime, they won't. So from my point of view, and I could be wrong as well, but this is like a non-starter, we should be focusing on women's rights, human rights, freedom of expression, right to assemble, right to do a lot of things, which is UN universal.
Of course, and all this starts when we actually engage with this interim government. But when we talk about trade and connectivity, Mr. Shahyar, how do you see what are key investment opportunities in this region where these three countries should be collaborating or focusing more on? And also, what is the role of private businesses in this regard?
So there are like a lot of areas in which there are investment opportunities, especially in Afghanistan. We've already discussed them. Energy would be a very important area. Like Afghanistan also is a growing country which has like a lot of energy needs. Other than that, food security, that's like one of the very important factors that even the UN is like talking about. Right now, the UN is investing around between like $40 to $45 million being funded by Western powers, and that goes entirely into humanitarian aid and food security. So working in agriculture sector, that would be a key area that would be very important. Other than that, mines, as we've already discussed, Afghanistan is a very resource-rich area in terms of minerals and like natural resources. So that's like one area where China could cooperate very deeply with the current regime to basically start some sort of like investment.
Of course.
Health sector is like also very important. There's like lack of health workers in Afghanistan, so their capacity building and bringing that like infrastructure and expertise to Afghanistan. Right now, Pakistan is the hub for most of Afghanistan, and the Afghans have to travel through the lengths of breadths of Afghanistan to reach Pakistan to get medical services. So
how do you see these three countries could leverage their strong points or strengths for making investments in these areas, in these sectors, like you mentioned about health, development sector, infrastructure, all these areas. But of course, Pakistan, China, Afghanistan, all three countries have their separate strengths. So how can they leverage their strengths?
So in terms of like infrastructure development and in terms of mines exploration, China has the expertise. So China will probably have to like take the lead And then obviously Central Asian countries, they can also invest and provide Afghanistan with the energy needs, because when it comes to oil and gas, Central Asia is like very resource rich. Other than that, when it comes to technical training and capacity building, especially in the health sector, agriculture, China, Pakistan both can support Afghanistan in that area. And while we are talking about this, a lot of Afghan students come to Pakistan for a lot of their education, and in terms of like technical education, medical education, in terms of engineering, Pakistan has launched various scholarships funded by the HEC for Afghans right now. Iqbal scholarship is very important. So capacity building of the Afghan population is very important.
Of course, capacity building is very important, and that is the reason that hard connectivity as well as soft connectivity was discussed in these trilateral dialogue. We will be talking more about it, but after a short break. We are talking about prospects for regional connectivity and regional stability. Dr. Stan, when we talk about regional connectivity, of course, CPEC is very important. How do you see that? What needs to be done to expand the scope of CPEC connectivity beyond Pakistan and connect it to Afghanistan as well, and include Afghanistan in this as well? And what are the key challenges at the moment?
See, we just have to maximize the trade. It is I always focused that it should be focused on the trade, because if I see the Belt and Road Initiative and paralleled, because I'm currently working on I2U2. So in comparison to the Belt and Road Initiative, it is the biggest threat to I2U2, and U2 have a biggest threat to Belt and Road Initiative, and the central part is whole of the Afghanistan. So if I see to this, it is 4.6 billion in total, and then is a 29 trillion to combine GDP of all the country involved, and 6 trillion trade between the China and BRI countries between the 2014 to 17, and then it is a 26 trillion to estimate cost of the infrastructure needs of the whole BRI countries, which includes 140 countries. And then is the estimate cost of the infrastructure need in the developing part of the Asia Pacific through 2030 is 26 trillion. China has pledged about the 1 trillion, which is a lot. So what Pakistan is doing, Pakistan must have to work more about, as the Afghanistan exporting 10,000 ton of the coal a day to Pakistan, and then the Pakistan export to Afghanistan increased by 10.8% in 7 months. Then on 1 year to year basis, export of Afghanistan also increased by 93% from 17.34 in Jan to 22. Again, the export of 33.5 million in January 2003. So overall export of Afghanistan were recorded in 285.177 million during July and January. And if I talk about 2022 and 23, against export of the US, 257.888 million during the January 20 till 21 and 22, showing growth of the 10.58% as per the State Bank of Pakistan data related. So Afghanistan China trade is going maximized in the million of the trade, but and most of the trade is on the nuts, animal hair, semi precious stone, dry fruits, vegetable products. If I talk more about, there is another new dimension I just wanted to tell you about, that they are very good in rubber tires, synthetic fabric, semiconductors, and unspecified commodities. This is what the China has explored from Afghanistan. So this is what we must not
Of course,
have to
but Dr.
make
Aslan,
it
there are a
inferior,
number of
but in
areas where there is a potential for trade and enhancing trade between the two countries. But how do you see that there is a lack of transportation infrastructure as well? So how to develop that? What steps are being taken, and how to address this key challenge?
This is what we think. To me, what I have seen, they have taken a very excellent grants from US, and initially it was a humanitarian problem. It was a funds and aids loan were not being given to Afghanistan, but I have seen a wonderful infrastructure. They are going so well in connectivity, and they are connecting every day. Their dollar, their rupee valuation, their standard of living is getting better day by day. So they are in a position to get a collaboration with other countries. So I'm telling you, as China is at the back of Iran, as the China is at the back of Saudi, and don't you think that the US is not at the back of Afghanistan, and China is also not on the back of Afghanistan? Of course, there is a much of the business, minerals and mines, coals. They are exploring like anything, and they are on the better way. So road infrastructure is doing so well. Pakistan is itself is in the deep trouble in the financial sector. So how can we give a special health? We can just give the treaty of peace, that they must have to be in the treaty of peace. They must not create the gateways for the terrorism and the other activities. We must have to lock their doors. Just we have to lock the doors, because we must not have to give the sympathy and take the sympathy of the word that Afghanistan is in the trouble. Afghanistan is no more in the trouble. They are getting money from so many other ways.
How do you see that what initiatives are very important that should be taken upon immediately for enhancing regional stability?
I think, one of the major issues which Afghanistan as of now is facing is its international recognition, and that has its own issues because they're not fulfilling the obligations which they promised in Doha, and because of that there are huge issues. There's no financial setup, banking system is not working. Dr. Hasnan earlier mentioned about the Bank of Afghanistan, which
so what are when we talk about this humanitarian crisis, what are the immediate humanitarian needs at the moment under this interim Taliban government?
UNDP and World Food Program for this year 2022 to 2023, they have appealed for $4 to $4.5 billion, which is needed for Afghanistan in terms of bringing out 20 million people or 19.9 million people, health infrastructure, agriculture setup, transportation and everything. But $4.5 billion, as of now, we have just heard that it's only $400 or $500 million which has been pledged. So Afghanistan needs that. From the Afghanistan de facto regime, they are a bit aggressive. They are also adamant in terms of understanding what are the needs of the international community. Although they have done certain good things in a way, that the security situation has improved considerably, and that also taken into the account. But these are the people who were basically making the security situation worse when they were like fighting with the Western powers. But now that they're in power, now it's ISIS, KP, ETIM, TTP, these are there. But having said that, it has improved significantly. Other than that, this regime needs a lot of regional connectivity. This regime needs a lot of regional cooperation, particularly, and international cooperation. Their $9 billion also needs to be unfrozen. There needs to be a proper mechanism where jobs are created, where health infrastructure is built, where transportation infrastructure is built, where investment is coming in. And that was Trilateral was very important because Chinese are like in a big go investing in mines and minerals and transportation infrastructure.
Of course, Chinese investments are very important in the region. Your quick view on this, that what needs to be done to improve regional stability?
So Mariam, like one of the key areas that was also discussed in the Trilateral Dialogue was the ensuring of security emanating from Pakistan, and that's like one of the key areas that was also discussed. There are like a lot of security related concerns that are emanating from Afghanistan. Pakistan has consistently pleaded its case in the international community as well, and it's also communicated to the current regime that security would be a very important factor determining relationships between Pakistan and Afghanistan. And China, Pakistan, both of them in this regard are on the same page. So when it comes to ETIM, that's like one of the key concerns of China, and TTP is a key concern for Pakistan.
These all remains key concerns that needs to be addressed. Thank you very much, Mr. Shahyar Khan, for joining in today's program. Thank you very much, Mr. Humayun Khan, for joining us in today's program. Thank you very much, Dr. Hasnan Javed, for joining us in today's program. Of course, as we conclude today's program, we have discussed that Afghanistan's stability is very important when we talk about regional stability. We discussed about trilateral trilateral dialogue between China, Pakistan and Afghanistan, and key takeaways were that of course trade and connectivity were discussed, and these initiatives needs to be taken by these three governments, and international community also needs to support the interim Afghan government, and recognition and engaging with them is important as well. That is all from Game Changer tonight. Take care. Allah Hafiz.